Hello, Francisca. I think we're recording, so I think we're good here. Who is all here in the room? Let's see. Robert, Charlotte, Doug, Francisca, Grover, Janice. Okay, some folks who know a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. We'll give it another minute and just see who pops in. I just want to make sure everybody gets a chance to get in and get their names in the chat. If you would, I know you did this in the other chat, but if you would, please put your name, what club you're with, and what role you're filling, which I assume is president. Type that back into the chat if you could just now in here, just so I can make sure we capture it on our recording, so we make sure that you get credit for being here tonight and can get a good start on your Distinguished Club Program points, which we'll talk a little bit more later on. So look. We've had Lavada join us. I hope I'm saying that right. Lavada, if you would, please type your name and your club that you're with and the position you're serving, which I assume is president, into the chat. And we just want to make sure everybody gets credit for what we're doing here tonight.
Okay. I did.
All right. All right. Well, why don't we get started? Because I want to make sure we leave plenty of time for questions. We got a little wrapped around technical issues when we did this last time, last week. So we didn't get a lot of time for questions last time. But I want to make sure we leave plenty of time for questions. And I'm Jason LeDuc. I am the Division A Director, outgoing for this year. I'm going to be the club extension chair under Ken Richardson as the club growth director next year. And they asked me to do the president training for this year's TLI. Let me share my screen really quickly. Let's see if this worked the way I wanted it to. Kinda making progress on how I wanted to view this. Okay, well, we'll go with that for now. All right, and my chat is not where I want it to be. Okay, so if you're all here, I assume you're here as you're taking on the role of being president. If you could either, if you would wave your hand if you have been a club president before, or type in the chat yes or no. Have you been a club president before or not been a club president before? Francisca, if you're in the wrong room, you can go back to the main room and they should be able to reassign you to the public relations room if that's what you're listening. Grover's been a club president. I know Janice has. Anyone else who's been a club president before? Never been before. Thank you, Charlotte. I was for 7 months. Well, that's a good long time. I'm sure you got a good flavor for the job, Doug. So most of you have already been a club president before. So some of the nuts and bolts of being club president, some of the responsibilities, the things you have to do, you're expected to do as club president, won't be new to you tonight. But some of these things that we're going to talk about, I really want to try to help set you up for success with a strategy throughout the Toastmasters year to help your club achieve its goals. And I want to spend a lot of time talking about that. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. We are going to go through what Toastmasters International wants to make sure that you know about the president role. Robert, most positions, but president first time. So tonight we're going to talk about the role of the club president. We're going to get to the nuts and bolts of the. Okay, Janice, we'll just hang in there if your connection is unstable, and you know, if you get dumped out, just log back in and ask them to put you back into the training. Don't worry about it. This is also going to be recorded, so if something happens and you are not able to see the whole thing, this will be recorded and posted up on the district website. So we will go through, like I said, the president's role, the president's responsibilities, which is the nuts and bolts, some of the resources, which is also the nuts and bolts Toastmasters wants you to know. But we're going to talk a lot about how you can set up a strategy and work with your executive council, your executive committee in your club to set the club up for success to meet the individual members' goals and the club goals for the year. These are the objectives. We basically talked about that already. So let's talk a little bit about the president's role. and you guys can type stuff into the chat. I'll kind of pause if you guys want to. We don't have too many people, so if you want to jump in and I ask a question you want to answer, that's okay. So what is the primary role of the club president? What do you know about the role? What do you think the primary role of the club president is? Go ahead and jump in, unmute yourself and jump in, or just type something into the chat. What's the primary role of the club president?
Me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, hey, yeah, I've a long-term menu, but I've been off and on, but yeah, I've held most positions but president because I've just been busy with doing a lot of activities. So yeah, the Toastmaster, well, the Sergeant of Arms actually opens the club. Then directly from there, then the president takes over and either opens with, discusses the toast, the educational moment, assigns the priority of the meeting, and then they also close the meeting too. So,
Yeah,
which
that's
is
excellent, Robert. One of the responsibilities of the president is to preside over the club meetings. Grover typed in the chat for us, the primary role of the club president is to give direction and reinforcement for the club officers. And those are all pretty important things. There is a textbook answer to what the role of the club president is, and you can find it in your club constitution, and it's also in your club leadership handbook. If you don't have the club leadership handbook, I highly recommend you get it and read it, and I am going to put it in the chat for you to download right now so that you have it in your hands before you leave here tonight. So please take a look at the Club Leadership Handbook. It not only tells you about all the roles and responsibilities of the president position, but all of the other officer positions in the club. And that will give you a really good idea of how to work with your executive council, your executive committee in your club to achieve the goals that you and your club want to achieve. So from that handbook, from your club constitution, and the underlining emphasis is added by me because these are the things that I think are important to recognize about the president's role. The club president is the chief executive officer of the club and responsible for fulfilling the mission of the club. The president presides at meetings of the club, and the club executive committee appoints all committees and has general supervision of the operation of the club. So what that means, it's about the club meeting its goals and not just what happens at the meetings, what has to happen outside the club meetings as well in order for the club to be successful. So the real answer to this is basically to fulfill the mission of the club. Well, what is the mission of the club? What is the mission of a Toastmasters club? What is the mission of your club? Either type in the chat or jump in and tell me what the mission of your club is, or what the mission of Toastmasters clubs in general is.
To ensure that its members develop good communication skills in a safe and supportive environment.
Yeah, that's great, Lavada. Am I saying that right, Lavada?
Lavata.
Lavada. That's great. Yes, it's about the members. It's about helping the members achieve their goals, their individual goals for the education program at Toastmasters and the leadership goals that they're trying to accomplish. Now, there are some things that the club needs to do to make that happen, right? It doesn't just happen automatically. We don't just show up to meetings and things automatically happen. So the bottom line is the president's goal, the role of the president is to build and maintain a healthy club where the members are meeting their educational and leadership goals and having fun at the same time. I think that's really important. You'll probably hear me say it a bunch of times, but I think one of the most important things we do in Toastmasters is we have entertaining, engaging, and energizing club meetings for our members and guests. And most importantly, all the things we haven't said yet, the things we have said, the things we haven't said, as club presidents, we want to leave our club better than we found it. We take over on July 1st, we turn it over at midnight on June 30th and July 1st again. We want to make sure that the club is in a better position than we found it. Not that it's in a bad position, but we want to do right by the people who are taking over from us. We want to set the next leadership team coming up after us, set them up for success, and the future of the club, set that up for success. And that's really the role of the president, to make sure that the executive committee and the club does that going forward. Grover typed in for us, the mission of the club is providing a mutually supportive environment to allow the members to achieve their individual goals. Yes, mutually supportive is so important here. So what makes a healthy club? We talked about it being mutually supportive. We talked about meeting goals. Give me some idea of what makes a healthy club.
Attending the meetings.
Yeah, absolutely. Attending meetings and having meetings that people want to attend, members and guests. We want to bring guests and increase the membership of our club. Having those interesting, engaging, exciting, entertaining meetings. Mentors is great. We're not going to talk a lot about mentors tonight, but implementing a mentor program in your club is one of the tools you can use to achieve the strategy that you develop for your club. And if we have some questions about that later, we'll try to get to that. But yes, a mentor program, a formalized mentor program, is a great way to help members meet their goals. Enthusiasm, showing up, doing what has been assigned, absolutely follow through, living up to the commitments that we make to ourselves and others. Some of the things that I have in my notes, the members are important to a healthy club. Meeting goals, recognition. Recognition is one of the most fun jobs as president. You get to stand up with somebody next to you and congratulate them for something great that they did in the club. It's one of the most fun parts of being president. The fun social aspect, the events, the guests, all that makes a healthy club. And we do that by having entertaining, engaging, interesting meetings. And that's on us, even though we may not be planning the meetings and executing meetings, we are presiding over them. And everything the club does, working towards the club goals, is our responsibility to make sure it's meeting the mission as president, even if we're not doing that work ourselves. And I'm going to tell you right now, don't do it all by yourself. You have an executive committee. Grover's shaking his head no. Yeah, you got it exactly right, Grover. Don't do it all yourself. You have an executive committee. You have 3 vice presidents that you're going to rely on pretty heavily to make sure that the nuts and bolts of the meeting get done. And then you have 3 other officer positions that also help with that, but just don't have as broad a strategic role like your vice presidents do. But all the officer roles are important, and you have other members of your club. So if your executive committee needs help fulfilling their responsibilities, your VPs and your other officers need help fulfilling their responsibilities, as it says in the slide, you can appoint committees. You can ask people to be on committees and to help your VPs and your other club officers to achieve their individual goals, to achieve the club goals to support the members. Okay, so the club meeting, I don't even know where I'm at in my slides. Let me get us caught up. Okay, so we're going to talk about the club meeting. The club meeting is the core of what a club does. So let's talk about the responsibilities that you have for the meeting. We'll talk about responsibilities you have outside the meeting, and we'll talk about your executive committee, which is, as we've said, is your team of officers who are going to help you achieve the goals of your club and leave it better than you found it, and set the next officer team coming in a year from now up for success. So what do you think the responsibilities, shout them out or type them in the chat. What are the responsibilities of the president at the club meeting? And we've talked about this a little bit already, but as you're typing those in, enthusiasm, showing up, doing what's been assigned. Yes. As you're thinking about these, I want you to think about these not just in terms of what the president does in the presiding over of the meeting, but what the meeting's all about. I want you to think about not just the jobs and tasks you have as the president in the meeting, but what the club needs to do to live up to that promise, to live up to those responsibilities to the members and the guests that are showing up. So what has to happen before club meetings?
Yep. Do you have an agenda?
Absolutely.
Yep. Make sure everybody fills their roles and agenda.
Yep. What else?
Introducing the roles.
Introducing the roles, yep. Agenda for attendance. Some of the things I have in my notes here, setting the room up. This is really your sergeant at arms. is going to be the person who executes this for you. But as president, everything that fulfills the club mission is our responsibility, our role, right? So we want to make sure the sergeant at arms knows that that's our expectation for them, if that's indeed our expectation for them. Welcoming guests and making them feel warmly welcome to a meeting is so important. And there's a number of ways you can do this. When I was a club president, I used to like to have my sergeant at arms make sure the room was set up before we expected guests to arrive. And then my sergeant at arms was that first contact. He was waiting by the door for those guests to come in. And then he would welcome the guest, make sure they got signed in on the sign-in sheet, and then hand them off to me as the club president, where I could talk to them for a few minutes. Or if I was already talking to someone, hand them off to another member, make sure they got seated next to a member or next to another guest, someone that they could talk to and feel welcome while they were waiting for the meeting to start. You don't have to do it exactly that way, but that's what I want you to think about when you leave here, is just how do you want guests to be welcomed into the club? Whether it's your sergeant at arms, whether it's you, whether it's somebody else, however you want to do it, be thinking about these things. These little things are important. And as president, you don't have to do them, and you don't even have to come up with how you do them, but you want to make sure that whoever you expect to do it knows that you expect them to do that. Handling the business, getting ready to handle any business portion of the meeting. And it's all important to think about who on your team should handle these things. We talked about the sergeant at arms, how I like to use the sergeant at arms for that welcoming guest function, but you may come up with other ways of doing this. And it's all about what's all of our roles in making things happen, making sure we have a great, entertaining, engaging, interesting meeting for our members and our guests. And I just want to emphasize before we move on, I know I've said it a bunch of times, but I've got it in my notes and I want to make sure you hear it one more time. Setting expectations is so important, not just with meetings, but with everything else your executive committee and any members who are helping you out do. If you don't ever set the expectation, how will they know that you're expecting them to do that? I see a lot of nods, right? That's really important. So it's really hard for someone to follow through on your expectations for them if you haven't told them what they are. So run me through a meeting. What happens during a meeting?
Okay.
Right? The sergeant at arms is, you may do it differently in your club, but a lot of clubs, the sergeant at arms calls the meeting to order. Depending on your club, the president will come up, preside over the meeting, introduce guests, introduce members, or ask them to introduce themselves. You'll be talking about the meeting's events. You'll be talking about the business portion of the meeting if you have one. And then you get to take a break, right? You bring on your Toastmaster of the day, and that's really nice because the Toastmaster presides over the meeting from then on. All the fun stuff happens, and you get to just sit back and enjoy it until the end of the meeting, where it's a great time to recognize members who've had an achievement at the end of the meeting. Like I said, that's the most fun part. And then providing any information and closing remarks, and then filling roles for the next meeting. And in some clubs, the president handles this. In some clubs, the VPE handles this. It's all up to you how you want to handle it. These are just some of the things that happen. And if you're going to have someone handle it besides you, just make sure we set that clear expectation for them. Announcements, adjourn the meeting. All right, so tell me what happens outside of the club meeting.
Let's see. Yep.
One thing I will point out as you guys are thinking about that and typing things into the chat or getting ready to jump in, one of your biggest responsibilities as president, and most people don't know this if they've never been president before, is that you are to attend district council meetings and vote for your club at district council meetings. Your VPE will do this as well. You are a member of the district council in a capacity called ex officio, which means basically because you are a club president, you are a member of the district council. And we will sometimes have issues like, what is the second contest we are going to have in addition to the international contest? Or we just did like the district realignment at the last district council meeting. So you'll be expected, you'll get emails that say, we're going to be voting. Here's the district council meeting agenda coming up in about a month. And here are the questions that we're going to be asking you to vote on. And these are the choices for you to vote on. Just like you get your thing in your ballot in the mail that's got all that information about that. You'll get that for your district council meetings. It'll just come over email, and you'll have to click a link to get credentialed and get registered for the meeting. And you'll do, as a club president, you'll do the same thing at the annual business meeting, the Toastmasters International annual business meeting. You and your club secretary will be voting members of that. And I think you will be getting those emails and those notices to get credentialed for that meeting very shortly after July 1st, because I think that meeting is in August. So you will get that very quickly. So be on the lookout for that. Appoint and chair the audit committee, appoint and chair the nominating committee. I wouldn't worry too much about that. Just recognize that these are all, the finances of the club, the officers coming in next year, all your responsibility to make sure it gets handled. You don't have to do it yourself, but all of these are responsibilities to the club that you have as the president to make sure these things get done, to make sure that the club is healthy and set up for success. All right. Receive official correspondence from world headquarters. This is really important. Not so much that you receive the official correspondence, but that you have updated your club's information on both the TI website and your free Toast Host website to make sure the contact information for your club is accurate, so that if you do need to get official correspondence from world headquarters or from the district or from any level of Toastmasters International, that they've got the right address for you. This is especially important because when a potential member of Toastmasters goes to the TI website and they click on your club as a club they want more information about, if you don't have your right club information in there, you won't get the email saying, hey, there's someone who's interested in joining your club. So it's really important, whether you do it, whether your secretary does it, go in and make sure that your club information, phone number, email address, meeting location, meeting hours, meeting times are all correct on the TI website. Also in Club Central and all your current information, and on your free Toast Host website if you're using that as something forward facing to potential members, excuse me. We're going to talk about the executive committee in a minute, but that's your responsibility to make sure your executive committee knows when the meetings are and that they're going to be there. Develop and improve club leadership. So this is where we go from working on our own individual leadership goals to helping develop others to become leaders of the future. That's what Toastmasters is all about. We do that through the education program. We kind of do that individually as club presidents and club officers, not just club presidents and mentors for the other members of the club. It's our responsibility to help develop and improve the club leadership. Again, we're setting ourselves up, we're setting our club up for success for next year and the years to come, not just worried about the current moment. And oversee club administration, we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. Advance club and member achievement. You're going to rely really heavily on your VPE for this to make sure that not just members are meeting their own individual goals, but that we're challenging them as they're moving along in their education program and interact effectively with the other organization levels. Get to know your area director, get to know your division director, get to know the district officers. They're very interested in your success as a club president and as a club, and they're there to help you. So you'll get opportunities to meet them and to interact with the other Toastmasters leadership levels, and I highly encourage you to get to know them. All right, so let's talk about the executive committee. What does the executive committee do? Tell me, quick, 50 words or less, what does the executive committee do?
Sets direction for the club.
Yep. What else?
Ensures that members actually are being given attention throughout the time that they're with the club.
Absolutely. So your executive committee, this is your team, right? You're going to come up with a vision of the club, and I highly encourage you to come up with your own vision for where you want the club to be on June 30th of next year. We talked about leaving it better than we found it. We talked about setting it up for success. Think about how you want your club to look during your time as president and where you want it to be on June 30th of 2022. That's next year, right? So what What do you want that vision to be? And so before you sit down and set that vision, before you convene your executive committee, because your executive committee meetings and your communication with your executive committee, even outside of meetings, is going to be about that vision that you have for the club, the expectations that you and the executive committee are setting for yourselves, each other, and the club, developing that strategy together on how you're going to get there, and turning that strategy into action. Your executive committee members are the ones who are going to be taking those actions, your VPE, your VPM, your VPPR. That's where the rubber is going to meet the road on having special membership events, guest events like open houses or other special meetings, helping people move along their path, setting a challenge, helping them set a challenging goal for themselves. That's where the rubber is going to meet the road. And your club officers are the ones who are going to turn that into action. And you're going to help them along the way. Don't think there aren't action steps for you as well. But that's really what your executive committee meetings are for. And what you're going to work with your executive committee on is developing a strategy, making commitments to each other on how we're going to get it done, and turning those commitments into action. So as you're thinking about your vision of the club, refresh yourself on what the mission of your club is. We talked about it generically, but what is specific the mission of your club? And if you don't have a specific club mission, what is it that makes your club special? 2020 and 2021 have been a huge opportunity for clubs to either rebrand themselves to something new and special, or to re-emphasize their brand and the role in the community. So think about what you want your brand to be for your club, what makes your club special, and what your club's role in the community outside of Toastmasters is, and use that to start thinking about that vision of where do I want the club to be on June 30th of next year. A couple other things before you bring together your executive team, and I'm going to drop a couple other documents in the chat for you, and we'll talk about them in turn if I can ever find my mouse. There it is. So the first thing I'm dropping in the chat for you is the Distinguished Club Program and the Club Success Plan Guide. And we'll talk about what those are. If you've been a president before, if you've been a club officer before, you're probably pretty familiar with the Distinguished Club Program. Is there anyone who's not familiar with the Distinguished Club Program? Go ahead and drop that into the chat. Or wave your hand or shake your head no. If you're not familiar with the Distinguished Club Program. Okay, well, we're going to spend some time on that today. The other document that I've dropped in here is the Area Directors Club Visit Report. Now, this is not a report that you do. This is a report that your area directors will do, and they will be coming to visit your clubs at least twice in the coming year. They'll be coming in the first half of the year once, they'll be coming in the second half of the year. They will be coming before October 31st, and they will be coming before April 30th. For those two halves of the year. Now, this Area Directors Club Visit Report has a lot of questions in it that your area director is going to be looking for the answers to when they come visit your club. These questions can give you a really good idea of helping set the vision of your club, setting up what makes your club special and how you're communicating that to your club members and how you're communicating that to the rest of the community. So take a look at those when you get a chance. We're going to talk in a lot more detail about DCP because I think it's a really important way to keep track of how healthy our club is. It's not the point of what we're doing, but it's a good scorecard. And then this Area Directors Club Visit is a great thing to go through, and you'll find that it aligns with all the DCP areas, and it will help you. It's good questions to ask yourself and your executive committee to help you set that strategy for the year. Okay, so remember we asked about, don't worry about this. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to fulfill the president responsibilities. And we're going to talk about that in the context of the Distinguished Club Program. So, like I said, remember how we talked about how are you going to turn that strategy into action? How do you know your club is on the right track to where you want to be on June 30th? Distinguished Club Program is a great scorecard to help you see how well you're achieving your goals. And it's a great way to think about your goals for the year before you set them so that you have a way to measure them. So one thing I really want to point out, so Distinguished Club Program, basically, if you want to be a distinguished club, you need to get 5 points on this scale. If you want to be select distinguished, you need to get 7. If you want to be president distinguished, you need to get 9. And you get a ribbon for this, you get recognized by the district, and Toastmasters International for being a distinguished club at these various different levels. One thing I really want to point out, because I was confused on this when I was a club president, there's a minimum number of members you have to qualify for distinguished status. And the way they get that number is they take the number of members you started the year with on July 1st, and you have to either be at least 20 members, or you have to have a net add of 5 new members over the year. So the club I'm looking at here, where I pulled this from the distinguished club status, and you'll find this in Club Central for your club. This club has actually added 2 more members this year since I pulled this, but they went from 6 members to 11. Now what happened was they actually added 8 members this year, but they lost one. This is a corporate club, and one of the members left the company and wasn't eligible anymore. So they actually are at 13 now, but they have met the minimum qualification of membership to qualify for the distinguished club program. So I know that could be a little confusing. Just keep an eye on your number of members. Basically what you want is the to date number to match or be higher than the required number. If you ever have questions about this, you can find me, you can find your area director, you can find any of the district officers, they'll help you with this. And then you'll see on here, you get points for doing different, on this screen, we've got the education. What do I have on the next page? Do I have so you can get points for educational awards. And so if your club gets 4 level 1 awards, you get 1 DCP point for your club achieving 4 level 1 awards. These are important because we want to keep people moving along the educational program. So you can read all these. You can read about them in the club success plan guide, the DCP guide. As you can see in this, when I pulled this club had done 2. They actually have completed a 3rd, and they have another one coming. So they should get this point this year. There are also points for membership. When you add your first 4 new members for the year, you'll get a distinguished club point. If you add a second group of 4, you'll get a distinguished club point. There are also points for training. This is why we push so hard to make sure that you get 4 of your club officers trained. 1, because we want to get all your club officers trained, but we keep score of that. You get a distinguished club point for getting a minimum of 4 officers trained in the first half of the year, and then a minimum of 4 officers trained in the second half of the year. So keep an eye on that. Remember, training is not just once a year, it's twice a year. And to get your point for distinguished, you need to make sure you get 4 officers trained at both TLI sessions each year. And then there's the admin goals. And these are making sure that your dues get paid on time. These admin ones are the really easy ones. You should be able to get this admin point really easily. So when it comes to be dues time, make sure your club treasurer, when that dues window opens, I think it opens in August, and I think it usually opens at the end of February for the second dues period. Make sure that you and the treasurer are talking up in club meetings. Let's get everybody's dues renewed. We can renew our dues now, right? And then getting that club officer list in on time. Has everyone in here gotten their club officer list in on TI? Shake your head no, or type in the chat if you haven't. Okay, so really important. You may not be able to do it if you are not a club officer right now, but make sure one of the club officers, if you can't get in and do it yourself, make sure that one of the current club officers goes in and enters the club officer list into Club Central. I would do it ASAP because TI is going to get real busy as we get to the end of the month. But before June 30th, make sure that someone, whether it's you as the club president now, the current club secretary, the outgoing club president, the outgoing club secretary, goes in and enters the names of all the new officers in the club officer list. No reason not to get that point. That's a really easy one to do. It takes like 5 minutes. And you just have to do that. If you only elect officers once a year, you're taken care of in June. If you do it twice, you've got to do it with the new officers coming in January as well. What is going on with my screen? Okay, so one of the things I do want to talk about, and this comes down to the helping you set up goals and a strategy with your executive committee for the upcoming year. When you're setting goals, I want you to think about how you're going to measure those goals. And there's 2 different kinds of measurements that I want to make sure that you understand before you go sit down and set those goals. So we're going to talk about leading indicators and lagging indicators. Leading indicators predict what's coming up in the future, and they help you define what actions you need to take to meet your goal and give you some ways to measure, are you on the track to meet the goal? They lead to succeeding and meeting objectives. That's why we call them leading indicators. Lagging indicators assess the current state of where you are now. It's a snapshot in time. What's happening right now? What's happened in the past with your club? So while a leading indicator can be really hard to measure, it'd be really hard to write a goal and set up a measurement using a leading indicator. A lagging indicator is really easy to measure, but it's hard to change. So knowing that now, are your DCP points, are they leading indicators or are they lagging indicators?
Lagging.
Yeah, absolutely. They're lagging indicators. So when you're setting your goals, it's good to set your DCP goals, to look at the DCP, what the DCP goals and what you are and what you want to achieve on the DCP for the year. But that's not quite enough, because your DCP goals aren't going to give you an idea of how quickly do I need to achieve the pace, right? What are the actions I need to take to make sure that we get 4 level 1s and then 4 more level 1s or 2 level 2s or whatever it is that whatever goal you're trying to achieve, your DCP points will tell you if you've met them, but they won't tell you if you're on track to meet them. So what are some of the things that you can measure in terms of educational goals, membership, administrative stuff, all that kind of stuff? What can you guys have been Club Toastmasters members for a while? You've been to meetings, you've been other officer positions before. From Gene Williams to everyone, please remember you must put your name, club name, and officer role. Okay, I think we've all done that. But if you have not put your name, club name, and your officer role in the chat, please do that for us. So what are some of the things that you might be able to measure in your club throughout the course of the year that would give you a good idea if you're on track to meet your DCP goals?
Educational achievements.
Yeah. That's a good one. How many people have met an educational goal, or how many projects have been completed over the course of this month? Who's speaking next month? That kind of thing, right?
How many guests have become members?
How many guests become members? Guest measurements are a great one. How many guests are showing up to meetings? And is that number going up or is it going down? How many guests are converting into members? And is that number going up or going down? Those are great ideas. What else? So some of the things that I had in my notes as I was thinking about this is, how many speeches are being given in each meeting? Are you giving 1 speech each meeting, which is good? Or are you giving 2 or 3? Are people giving 2 or 3 speeches at each meeting? The number of speeches that are getting done tell you what kind of pace you are towards people meeting those goals. One of the other things I thought about is, what's the wait time to get on your agenda, right? Do club members have to wait 2-3 months? Do they have to sign up now for a speech 2 or 3 months from now? Or is it pretty open, and is that time increasing or decreasing? And you may want to adjust things. If that lag time is going out a couple of months, you may want to think about having a speech-a-thon, or you may want to think about adding 1 more speech to your agenda. It's all up to you, but these are indicators that you can measure, and you can actually set goals for at the beginning of the year. I want to have 3 guests at each meeting. I want to convert, for every 10 guests we get, I want to convert 1 into a member. All up to you. I just want to get you thinking about how you can write goals and how you can measure goals that will be things that you can look at throughout the year that tell you if you're on track, instead of getting to like the end of March and saying, oh my God, we have a lot of work to do to get through our DCP program, right? Which is what ends up happening to a lot of clubs. I know it happened to me the year I was president. So, and to do that, to set some goals and to focus your action, because you only have so much time. Your executive committee members only have so much time, and your members only have so much time. I want to clue you in that there's a rhythm to the Toastmasters year. And some of you may already know this, but if you understand the rhythm of the Toastmasters year, you won't be surprised by some of the things that are coming up when your area director says, hey, you got to get this done, and they give you like a week notice on it, or 2 weeks notice, or whatever they do. You won't be surprised by it, because you'll understand the rhythm of the Toastmasters year. And so that rhythm starts on July 1st. That's the start of our year. You guys are well aware of that. You're taking over as club presidents on July 1st. On October 1st, that's when the first dues period is. That's when club dues need to be in. October 30th are when those area director visits are complete. So you can expect in September and October, your area directors, if not sooner, your area directors are going to start coming to you and saying, hey, I want to come visit. I'm going to start asking you all those questions that are on that area director's club visit report. So now you know that visit is coming somewhere in the first half of this year before October 30th, and you know the questions you're going to get asked, so you won't be surprised by that. Plus, like I said earlier, really valuable tool for helping you set your club goals. January through May is contest season. I don't really want you to get worked up about that, other than I just don't want you to be surprised by that. Right? I don't know your experience with contests. When I was just a member of a club and even a first-time club officer, it was always a surprise to me. The area would tell us, hey, you got to have a club contest by your next meeting because the area contest is like the week after. So just don't be surprised. Contest season's coming up. Contest season is a lot of fun. I hope to see all of your clubs provide contestants to the contest. Love contest season. I just don't want you to be surprised by it. I don't want you to be surprised by any of these things. That's why we're talking about them. April 1st is the second dues period. So that dues window is going to open up probably the end of February. So just don't be surprised by that. And April 30th, second round of area director visits to compete. You got it complete. You'll be pros at that because have done that in the first of the year. And then June 30th is the end of the year. And so this is where you're going to see how well you did setting the club up for success after your tenure as president. And as we talked about, we want to have some leading indicators that tell us if we're on the right track, if we need to tweak our plan here, tweak our plan there to make sure that we're getting to those big picture goals we had for the end of the year. So this is just one way to focus your attention. This is why I'm telling you about this rhythm of the Toastmasters year. I don't want you to be surprised by what's coming up, but I want you to think about how you're going to focus your attention and how your executive committee, your club officers are going to focus their attention throughout the year so that you have a really good shot at meeting those club goals that you all are going to put together in your club success plan and your executive committee meetings. So this is kind of what I like to focus on. And this is what I was always focused on as an area director and division director. You are absolutely clear to focus on whatever you think is important for your club, but this is kind of aligned with that rhythm of the year. So I like to break the year up into quarters. July through September, focus on membership. That's the primary focus. Start working on, if your goal is to get a member a month, if your goal is to have 3 guests at a meeting, get started on that your very first July meeting. Start promoting your club. Start doing special events. They don't necessarily have to be open houses. They could just be fun, different kind of themed meetings, whatever you're going to do. But get focused on that membership because that first milestone is going to be that club dues period. And that's where you're going to see, that's going to be your first real indication of how many members do we have? How many members are we keeping? I don't know if you're familiar, but with this statistic, I don't know how accurate it is. It's something I've heard. Most Toastmasters clubs can expect to turn over a quarter to a third of their members, to lose a quarter to a third of their members in any given year. So if you've got 20 members, you could lose 4 or 5 of them at any given dues period. So if your goal is to bump yourselves up by a net of 10 members or 12 members, and you think you might lose 4 or 5, it's really important before that dues period kicks in October, when people decide not to come back and not pay their dues, that you've done some things to try to replace some of those members and add new members. And then the secondary focus, and you can rely on your VPE and your club members to do this, is help each club member set an individual goal for themselves for their educational goals and their leadership goals for the year. This focuses on the 2 big primary areas of the DCP program. This focuses on those educational goals, where you're probably going to get most of your points, and then your membership goals, where you're going to get the next biggest opportunity to get your DCP points. Okay, so that's July through September. October through December, now you're going to shift your focus as president. Your VPM, your VPPR, they're still going to be working on membership. They're not going to let up on that. But you're going to be more focused on, with your VPE, are our club members on track to meet those goals that they set out for themselves that we challenge them with at the beginning of the year? And then your secondary focus will be membership. There's never a time you as the president are not focusing on membership. I suppose if you had like 50 members in your club, maybe, but then you're probably trying to focus on how is the club helping the members achieve all their goals instead of just bringing in new members. But you're never not focused on membership. And you're also thinking about your club contest. You don't need to do a lot of work now, but you're looking at the calendar thinking, if the area contest is at the end of February, we might want to have our club contest or decide how we're going to choose our area level contestants from the club. We might want to think about that at the end of January. So you're just looking ahead to the calendar. You're looking ahead to next quarter. January through March, you've got another dues period coming up at the beginning of April. And then this is the one where you're really going to see in April, are you really on track to meet those membership goals that you had at the beginning of that April 1st dues period? So you're going to be focused on membership again. Your VPE, they're still going to be focused on, and your mentors, they're still going to be focused on helping individual members achieve their goals, move along their paths, take on leadership roles, develop into future leaders. And then, but you and your VPM and your VPPR, you're going to be focused on that dues period coming up. You're going to be focused on who might we lose, how are we going to replace them, how are we going to grow as a club. Again, you're going to be focused. Your secondary focus is going to be on those member goals and that club contest that you're going to run. And just because this is a focus area for you doesn't mean you need to run the club contest. You can find someone else in the club, another member, maybe somebody who needs to do an HPL project for their path to be the contest chair. So don't be afraid to delegate things out. This is just where I like to put my attention during these time periods of the year. Then April through June comes, and April through June is a little different because you're through the dues period, but you're coming up on the end of the year. So you're gonna be focused on achieving those members' goals, making sure that they complete their goals for the year so that you guys can get those good points for education in the DCP. And you're gonna, again, still be focused on membership. You wanna make sure we showed you that number earlier. Make sure that actual member number is above the required member number on your DCP scorecard. And then you're gonna be thinking about the transition plan. Starting in April, you're going to be thinking about who our incoming club officers going to be. You actually probably want to think about this all year long, looking for who that talent is to bring on as club officers. But start thinking about that transition plan. When are we going to elect club officers? How are we going to do that? Are we going to do a slate and just it's going to be a yes or no vote? Do we have more than one person interested in officer positions? All up to you. This is just beginning of April is the time I like to start thinking about that transition plan. So we talked a lot about the scorecard. When you open that DCP guide and that club success plan guide, along with that area director's visit report, those are going to be the things that are going to help you go back and review your guiding principles. What's the mission of the club? What's the vision of the club? What are the things that are important to you? What makes your club special? The club success plan helps you assess where your club is at now and set goals for the future. Don't forget this idea of leading and lagging measures. And it gives you spaces to write down what your actions are going to be. And not just the actions of the club, but individual club officers on the executive committee, what their actions are going to be. What are the commitments they're going to make to the club to say, I'm going to step up and do these things throughout the year to make sure that we meet our goals. This is just a quick look at the last page of that area director visit club report template. And I want to show you this page. This is the last page, and this is where it talks about educational goals. And I want you to see the area director club visit report is laid out exactly like the DCP scorecard. And you can see what progress is the club making for the goal. What can the club do to meet this goal? And they even have a spot on this area director visit report for who are the people that have a chance at achieving one of these awards this year. So this is something that your VPE can sit down with. They can look at the current state of where all the members are in the club, and they can say, okay, we've got 5 people who could achieve level 1 this year or in the first 6 months. We've got 4 people who could achieve level 2, and we've got 2 or 3 people who could make a level 3 or level 4. When you identify those folks by name, when you do that assessment of where your club is today, then you can start to sit down with the individual members. And as you have that conversation with them about their goals, You can give them a challenge goal, say, I think it'd be great if you completed your level 1 this year or in the first 6 months of the year. And if you're really ambitious, complete your level 2 in the second 6 months of the year. Level 3s and level 4s take a little bit longer. But this is a great tool to help you think about not just what you want the goal to be, but where the rubber meets the road and the nuts and bolts of how you can help your club and your members achieve those goals. Part of that in there is the President Responsibility Action Plan. We talked a lot about this, right? How are we going to do this? What are the commitments we're going to make to the club? When are actions going to be completed? How are we going to measure them? Who's available to help you? Like I said, don't do all of this on your own. Use your team. And what materials and resources can you use? And I've given you a few that you may not have thought of. We're going to talk about a few of them in here. But you know, you're at training. You've already done the first one. Read the materials that are out there. Meet with the outgoing executive committee, or at the very least, meet with the outgoing club president and talk to them and see how their year went, what their lessons learned were, and meet with your current executive committee. And I would say, don't wait. One of the great things about TLI being early this year, connect with your executive committee, whether you're going to do a club success plan or not, set your goals, set those measurements, make those commitments, look each other in the eye and assure each other that you're going to live up to those commitments. Do that before July 1st. So there's a few resources you can see up there. Your club constitution is a great one just to get those nuts and bolts of definitions. Distinguished club program and club success plan is great. I think that area director visit report will give you a lot of insight into what the district leadership expects of you as club presidents. Speechcraft, if you're interested in running a Speechcraft program, I won't spend a lot of time on that. That is really all I have for you in terms of prepared remarks. Do you all have any questions for me? We've got about 7 minutes left.
I think you pretty much covered it all, Jason. I have no questions at this point.
Anybody else? I know I covered a ton of stuff, and I covered a ton of stuff that we don't usually cover as part of this presentation.
I've been out of Toastmasters for a little while. Did they discontinue the humorous contest and all? Weren't there 2 contests a year?
Yes. So typically our district does 2 contests every year. Every year the district is required to do international. We must do international. And then as a district, we choose a second contest to do. So this past year we did Tall Tales. I think the year before that was humorous. So we will be voting on that. And I think that will be one of the first district council meetings. When we do district council, I think we do it in August or September. I believe that was a topic, I want to say, last year when we did district council, what we were going to vote on for the second contest. I think we did, trying to remember if we did that at district executive council, which is just the district leadership, or district council with all the club presidents and VPEs. But yeah, I am confident there'll be 2 contests this year. I don't know what the second one will be. Humorous always gets a big turnout for people who want to do humorous. Tall Tales usually gets some good support. We might do table topics. I don't think we've done table topics for a while. So more to follow on that, but I'm pretty confident we'll be doing 2 contests. Other questions? Anything I didn't cover that you had hoped I would cover tonight?
I think you covered everything for which I'm interested.
Okay.
The meeting was very informative, and thank you for the resources.
Yeah, I think you will find all 3 of those things helpful. And those will point you to other resources as well. I certainly have found them helpful through my time as a club president and as an area director and division director. And these are a lot of lessons I learned that as a district officer, these are things that I wished I knew about when I was a club president. That's why I wanted to make sure I shared them with you. Okay, well, if there aren't any more questions, if there isn't anything that I didn't cover that you really wanted me to cover or hoped I would cover, are there any questions in general about Toastmasters or leadership or anything like that? All right, well, it's almost 8
When
o'clock.
when do we plan to eventually go back to meeting and meetings?
I think you can do that now with your clubs. There are clubs that are meeting in person now. So that is up to you and your executive committee when you want to do that.
Yeah, we are doing hybrids right now for the last 2 weeks or so.
So I know one of my clubs, Bon Appetit, is doing hybrids and has been for 4 or 5 months at this point, at least.
Mhm.
And my other club, Grand Central Toastmasters, is probably if we don't skip our July 1st meeting, we'll probably start going back to hybrid. Well, going to hybrid in the end of July. If we skip that July 1st meeting, we'll probably start in August for hybrids instead of just online only. But that's up to you. Talk to your executive committee and make a decision of what's going to work best for your members. Is online only going to work best for your members? Is hybrid going to work best? The trick is, if you've got members who are not local, if you've taken dues from members who are not local, you still need to provide them some way to get in, either hybrid or online. But if you don't have any members who are non-local, you can go back to in-person meetings anytime. All right, last call for questions, comments, feedback.
Thank you for your time tonight.
Well, thank you all for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Thank you for getting a good start on your Toastmasters year by being here at training. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm on the club member list. I think you can probably reach me somewhere through the District 115 website. But if you have any I'm around, you'll find me. But if you have any questions about what we did, if you have any questions about anything regarding district leadership or anything like that, and your area director can't answer it for you, your division director, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be happy to sit down and talk with you. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to stop our recording. And you guys are cleared to go back to the main room.